What if I told you that Persia never truly vanished? Instead, it subtly transformed, merely changing its name. How could a nation, steeped in thousands of years of illustrious history, choose to seemingly shed its very identity before the world in the mid-20th century? Today, we embark on a profound journey through glorious empires, hear tales of brutal invasions, and unravel the strategic decisions that ultimately reshaped the collective memory of an entire people. This isn't just the chronicle of a country, it's a testament to how the intricate interplay of power, religion, and public image can irrevocably alter the destiny of a civilization. So, lean back and prepare, because what you are about to uncover extends far beyond a simple shift in nomenclature. But before we dive deep, please remember to subscribe to our channel and share in the comments what other forgotten civilizations pique your curiosity. Let's begin. Imagine, if you will, a land cradled by towering mountains, vast, scorching deserts, and crisscrossed by ancient trade routes, thoroughfares where not only merchandise flowed, but also the very essence of identity, power, and enduring legacy. This is the Iranian Plateau, a strategically vital region that for millennia served as a fertile cradle for civilizations. But how did it all begin? And who were the true architects of what we now recognize as Iran? To grasp this, our journey must rewind to the 2nd millennium BCE. When the Indo-Iranian peoples first arrived, they were nomadic tribes speaking Indo-European languages, distant linguistic cousins to languages that centuries later would evolve into Latin, Greek, or even modern Portuguese and Spanish. Crucially, their language bore no resemblance to Arabic, a connection many mistakenly assume with Iran today. No, in Old Persian, words like mater meant mother, and ped meant father, echoes that still resonate in the root sounds of many Western languages. These weren't mere sounds, they were the very bedrock of a distinct, profound, and ancient culture. Among these emergent peoples, two groups rose to prominence, the Medes and the Persians. The Medes established themselves in the northwest of what is now Iran, proving to be powerful, well-organized, and swiftly securing their position as the dominant force. The Persians, conversely, settled further south in a region known as Pars, from which the name Persia itself originates. While fertile and strategically situated, this nascent Persian community was not initially a formidable power. No one could have possibly foreseen that this unassuming people would one day fundamentally alter the trajectory of human history. At that early juncture, Persian was merely a limited geographical tag, designating a specific province rather than encompassing an entire region, let alone a grand civilization. The undisputed epicenter of power belonged to the Medes, who forged the first significant empire in that corner of the world, long before the name Persia would ever grace foreign royal courts or be etched into history books. But the tides of fortune were about to turn. From amidst those very mountains and plains, a man was destined to be born whose sheer ambition would shatter the established order of the past. A visionary leader who looked beyond fragmented tribes and dared to dream of an unprecedented unity. His name was Quraysh, or, as the world would come to know him, Cyrus the Great. With Cyrus, a new epoch dawned, marking the rise of the first empire that ventured to conquer not merely lands, but also the hearts and minds of its inhabitants. Before Alexander, before Napoleon, before Genghis Khan even conceived of global domination, there was a man who achieved it first, and remarkably, he did it differently. While the empires of the ancient Near East typically imposed their rule with iron fists, unleashing destruction and enforced exile, Cyrus the Great constructed his vast dominion upon a revolutionary principle, governance through respect. After decisively defeating the Medes, Cyrus accomplished far more than just unifying disparate peoples. He founded the Achaemenid Empire, a sophisticated political edifice designed not to sow fear, but to cultivate loyalty. Rather than coercively imposing a single language or religion, he actively safeguarded the temples of his conquered subjects, honored their gods, and allowed their diverse cultures to flourish. For the Jewish people exiled in Babylon, for instance, Cyrus was perceived not as an invader, but as a liberator. For the Babylonians themselves, he was not an enemy, but a benevolent restorer chosen by their deity, Marduk. Cyrus astutely avoided proclaiming himself the envoy of a purely Persian god. Instead, He cleverly positioned himself as the chosen one of the local deities, and this strategy worked with astounding efficacy. Under Cyrus and his astute successors, notably Darius I, the Persian Empire expanded dramatically, stretching from the fertile banks of the Indus River all the way to the shores of the Aegean Sea, and from Egypt deep into Central Asia. In less than a century, they had absorbed the formidable empires of the ancient world, transforming them into loyal provinces. Egypt, Babylon, names that once commanded the world stage, now answered to the majestic city of Persepolis. But their achievements extended far beyond mere territorial expansion. This empire engineered an expansive road network, intricately connecting thousands of miles of diverse lands. They established a messaging system famed for its lightning speed and developed a sophisticated bureaucracy that did more than simply control, it administered, meticulously recorded, and skillfully negotiated. It was a true masterpiece of diplomacy, strategy, and pragmatism. Indeed, historian Lloyd Llewellyn-Jones, among many others, unequivocally hails it as the world's first true superpower. Yet, this delicate balance between cultural respect and centralized power was as precarious as a tightrope stretched taut across the vast empire. It would take just one decisive push, one sharp blade, to sever it. That push came surging from the west, spearheaded by an ambitious young man named Alexander. What was about to unfold was not merely another war, but a monumental clash between two distinct worlds. In the year 334 BCE, a relatively small but highly disciplined army crossed the Hellespont, heading relentlessly eastward. It was led by a young Macedonian king, not yet 30 years old. His name was Alexander, though the world would forever remember him as Alexander the Great. His objective wasn't simply to conquer territory, it was to avenge Greece, utterly humiliate Persia, and perhaps, just perhaps, carve his own name into the annals of legend. And he succeeded. In a series of epic-defining battles, Granicus, Issus, and finally, Gaugamela, the mighty Persian army was decisively crushed. The Achaemenid Empire, which for generations had held dominion over half the known world, crumbled under the relentless assault of a young man driven by a godlike ambition. Yet, the most astonishing aspect wasn't his swift victory. It was what he chose to do afterward. Alexander did not raze Persia to the ground. He did not erase it from the map. He admired it, diligently studied it, and in a profound sense, became it. He wed Persian princesses, adopted Eastern robes, participated in Zoroastrian rituals, and began to assert himself as the legitimate successor to the Achaemenid kings. He retained the efficient Persian bureaucracy, governed from grand Persian palaces, actions that, for many Greeks in his entourage, were utterly unforgivable. Within his own army, this Persianization ignited a furious storm. Generals and soldiers, raised on the bedrock of Hellenic ideals, viewed his choices as a profound betrayal. Had they not marched eastward precisely to dismantle Persia, to liberate Greece from the perceived Eastern yoke? Now, their charismatic leader appeared to have succumbed to the seductive allure of Persian luxury, splendor, and even its deep spirituality. Internal tensions escalated, and whispers of conspiracy began to spread. But Alexander harbored a far broader vision. He grasped that governing such an immense empire was not solely a matter of military might, it was about symbols, legitimacy, and the fusion of cultures. He yearned to forge a universal civilization where East and West could harmoniously coexist. Perhaps he dreamed of transcending his identity as a mere Macedonian king. Perhaps he sought to become eternal. His sudden, untimely death in 323 BCE, at the tender age of 32, left that grand dream tragically unfulfilled. With no clear heir, his vast empire was swiftly fragmented among his leading generals, known as the Diadochi. The central heartland of the former Persian Empire eventually fell into the hands of the Seleucids, descendants of Seleucus, one of Alexander's most trusted commanders. But Persia, as a potent idea, did not disappear. It merely slumbered, awaiting new dynasties that would soon awaken it and eagerly claim the glorious legacy of its ancient kings. When Alexander died, his monumental empire shattered rapidly, much like a mirror struck and broken. Yet, amid those scattered fragments, the essence of Persia remained vibrantly alive. Under Seleucid rule, and later under the formidable Parthians, the ancient Persian heartland never ceased to be a coveted prize. Though foreign kings occupied the throne, the cultural pulse of the territory continued to beat strongly. It was only a matter of time before a new wave of Persians would rise to reclaim their rightful heritage. Thus arose the Sassanids, a powerful dynasty born in the very region where Persia's story had first begun, Fars. They proudly asserted themselves as direct descendants of the Achaemenids, and with great zeal, they restored many of their ancient traditions. Under Sassanid rule, Zoroastrianism, the venerable Persian religion centered on the singular god Ahura Mazda, was powerfully reaffirmed as the state faith. Temples once more graced the landscape, culture flourished with renewed vigor, and Persia, once again, ascended to become an empire worthy of both admiration and fear. But no power, however mighty, is truly eternal. In the 7th century, a potent new force began to emerge from the Arabian Peninsula, Islam. And it did not arrive as a guest, it swept in as a conqueror. Within mere decades, Arab armies decisively defeated the Sassanids and seized control of the sprawling former Persian Empire. With them came new beliefs, a new language, and a fundamentally new political order. Zoroastrianism was gradually, though not entirely, displaced by Islam. Arabic became the administrative and religious lingua franca, and the Persian language, while resilient, began to absorb its profound influence, adopting countless words, literary styles, and structural elements. Yet, the Persian soul did not vanish. It endured resiliently in its magnificent poetry, in its groundbreaking sciences, in its intricate art, and even in the uniquely Persian way it embraced the new without entirely forsaking the old. In the centuries that followed, the region became a tumultuous chessboard, passing through the hands of various Turkish, Mongol, and even local Persian dynasties. The Buyids, for instance, even managed to assert control over Baghdad, the very heart of the Abbasid Caliphate. Then came the Seljuks, followed by the terrifying Mongols of Genghis Khan, the formidable Tamerlane, and various Turkmen states that fiercely contested every inch of territory. It was a chaotic, shifting landscape where power constantly changed hands. Yet, in that relentless whirlwind of wars and conquests, something crucial began to solidify, a distinct Persian identity that, though Muslim, proudly differentiated itself from the wider Arab world. That burgeoning distinction would be profoundly strengthened under a new dynasty, one that would not only restore political unity but also leave an indelible religious mark. Amid the chaos of fragmented dynasties and incessant regional wars, a powerful force emerged that would forever transform the political and religious soul of the region, the Safavid dynasty. They were not merely another lineage driven by a hunger for power, they possessed a clear, revolutionary vision to unify the vast territory under a singular, distinct banner, that of Shi'a Islam. Until that point, the Islam practiced in the region had been predominantly Sunni, aligning with the majority of the Islamic world. But the Safavids made the audacious decision to impose Twelver Shi'ism as the official state religion. This was far from a smooth transition, enforced through periods of persecution, sweeping reforms, and deep social restructuring. Yet, in doing so, they planted the enduring seed that would distinctly set Iran apart from the rest of the Islamic world, a distinction that persists to this very day. The Safavid dynasty did more than simply mark a religious turning point, it was also pivotal in the vibrant rebirth of Persian identity, now profoundly integrated with Islam. They championed stunning architecture, profound poetry, sophisticated philosophy, advanced medicine, and groundbreaking science, all under a new banner, expressed in a renewed language, and viewed through a worldview that seamlessly blended imperial legacy with Shia spirituality. It was, truly, a new Persia, sporting a different face. And with this new face, the ancient term, Iran, began to reappear with much greater prominence. Derived from Aryanam, meaning the land of the Aryans, or of the nobles, the name Iran possessed deep, ancient roots. However, until then, it had primarily been used internally, by the people themselves, rather than abroad. In contrast, Persia, a name that originally referred only to a single province, Fars, was the designation by which foreigners had known the country since the time of the ancient Greeks. Thus, as the Safavids consolidated their control, and subsequent dynasties like the Qajars maintained the state structure, a fascinating identity duality began to take shape: Persia, for the outside world; Iran, for the Iranians themselves. An ambiguity that was neither accidental nor, as it turned out, permanent. Because in the 20th century, with the ascension of a new monarch determined to modernize and westernize the nation, that enduring duality would be decisively resolved, not through grand battles or intricate treaties, but through a simple diplomatic letter dispatched to every embassy across the globe. For centuries, the world had known this ancient land as Persia. It was a name that evoked images of glorious empires, exquisite carpets, mystical poetry, and pioneering science. But for many in the West, Persia also carried connotations of the exotic, the distant, and even the decadent, a legacy rooted in Greek narratives that often depicted it as a civilization steeped in excessive luxury, tyranny, and moral corruption. It was in this complex context, already well into the 20th century, that Reza Shah Pahlavi, the Iranian monarch of the time, driven by robust modernization ambitions, made a decision as profoundly symbolic as it was strategic. In 1935, he issued a diplomatic circular to all foreign embassies, formally requesting that from that point forward, his country be referred to by its indigenous name, Iran. Why undertake such a significant change? It was not merely a matter of linguistic preference. It represented a deliberate effort to break away from the Orientalist vision of Persia that had long dominated Western perceptions, a label often burdened with colonial undertones. By officially adopting Iran, a name that in Persian means the land of the Aryans, or of the nobles, the country sought to project a new, more assertive image, one of strength, modernity, and unequivocal sovereignty. It was a masterful move of symbolic diplomacy, though not without its own internal controversies. Within the country itself, many intellectuals and ordinary citizens viewed the decision as a betrayal of their heritage. For them, Persia represented a glorious past, the Achaemenids, Darius, Cyrus, a rich tapestry of literature, advancements in medicine, and the sheer grandeur of an empire that had once challenged the world. Abandoning that hallowed name felt, to some, like severing a legacy thousands of years old. Yet, the decision stood firm. Iran would be the official name, and so it would appear in books, newspapers, and international treaties. Yet, history did not pause there. In 1979, following a revolution led by Ayatollah Khomeini, the monarchy was overthrown, and the Islamic Republic of Iran was established. Relations with the West plummeted, Shi'ism became even more centrally entrenched, and the global perception of the country dramatically transformed. Today, Iran regrettably evokes for many images of geopolitical tensions, international sanctions, regional conflict, and fundamentalism. Meanwhile, Persia, ironically, has reclaimed a romantic aura, associated with lost grandeur, refined culture, and an almost mythical past. There are two names, one deeply complex land, and a constant, underlying struggle to shape how it will ultimately be remembered. Because sometimes, a simple name conceals a silent war waged between what we once were, what we currently are, and what the world chooses to see in us. Thank you for watching all the way to the end. If you enjoyed this video and are passionate about this kind of content, please subscribe to our channel so you don't miss upcoming videos and discover more fascinating stories. See you in the next video.